You can easily find people playing Caesar 3 even today. Very few people finish Caesar 2. And now there's almost no useful information about the game that started it all, which is seemingly the third or fourth city-building game ever created. There's nothing useful even in the publications of the time. Games journalism was always a grift. The problem is that the game's GUI is poorly done even compared to other releases of that time. This was competing against Alone in the Dark, Dune 2, and Star Control 2. The manual is pretty useless, the feedback is poor. Some of the core mechanics were a bad idea. They add nothing, but create morbid barriers to entry. You have to learn the rules of Caesar by yourself. The gameplay is not playing this game. The gameplay is finding the rules of the game through trial and error and experimentation. With modern parity ports and parity translations, people forgot that platform and regional differences were sometimes drastic. If you buy Caesar on GOG, you get 2 DOS versions of the game, EU and US, and the US version is almost as different from the EU version as Fallout 2 from Fallout. Most of the assets are the same, but there are many new mechanics, and the story is different. This tutorial focuses on the US version of the game, so it's only partially applicable to the EU version. A lot of the basics are the same, but many new US features are absent in the EU game. Some interfaces are different, some mechanics work differently, and the balance is entirely different. The GOG version comes with the dated blurry dosbox 0.7.4, running at low cycles and with high mouse sensitivity. Instead of that, it's better to use dosbox staging with all the Instagram filters removed. More on that later. At least the GOG version mostly just works. After launching the game, press 1 for the Caesar US. Click left mouse button to skip the credits cutscenes. In the main menu, initial funding is the amount of cash you will have at the start of the first map. It decreases in the next provinces until you get only $4,000. In rich provinces you can barely scrape by with $4,000, so starting with anything lower than $8,000 seems mathematically impossible. The manual says that skill level increases the number of barbarian attacks and the maintenance costs. On easy, barbarians already spawn every 30 seconds, and by the last map you hit the plebs hard limit of 2,000, which is barely enough to win that map. I doubt it's mathematically possible to win above easy in the US version. Choose Name offers you to change your name. And it finally accepts keyboard inputs in this version. Load a game opens the Saves menu and it is significantly improved compared to the EU version. You have the Files window that can fit 18 save files. If you have any more than that, you have to memorize their names and manually input them into the loader. But this menu also accepts keyboard input. OK, starts a new campaign with the chosen initial funding and skill level. The game picks a random province and generates a random city map. You start on the city screen. Caesar is one of those games where the developers thought that the dual-mode mouse input is a good design. Right mouse button swaps between the two modes. The square mode is to scroll the screen, the arrow mode is to interact with the GUI. The only reason to do it that way is to prevent the screen from scrolling when you try to click a GUI button. This is a really bad design. Dune 2 from the same year already has edge scrolling at the FOV edge, and they did it with one mouse mode in a fast-paced game. Thankfully, Caesar US has added some hotkeys. The main panel on the bottom offers you these buttons. Equal greater switches between the provincial level and the city level. You can also use the hotkeys F2 and F3. Greater F opens your forum with advisors. Hotkey F. 3.5-inch floppy disk is the main menu. Look at this graph, show something like overlays, hotkey G. The shovel button is used to clear out the land, remove roads, and destroy buildings. The shack button puts down tents, for $2 each, which hopefully won't disappear. The radio shack is baths. The I hammer opens the buildings panel 1. The C hammer opens the buildings panel 2. You can switch between the three panels by pressing spacebar, or you can press 1 for the main toolbar, 2 for the infrastructure toolbar, and 3 for the construction toolbar. In the corner you can see your current city funds. We will go to the provincial level later. Your forum is a fully graphical point and click picture with no hints. Clicking the dudes opens the panels, clicking RMB goes one level back. The first dude is your personal campaign screen. Click your name to change it. Click your title to see the previous and the next one. You can also see the goals for the current province, the average percent and the minimum percent you have to reach. Click the current province name to see the empire map, hotkey F1. It just shows your current province, your past provinces, and future provinces. Next line is your personal cash you can transfer between the provinces. It's capped at 25,000. Initially you can take only a bit of it to the next province, but by the mid-game it reaches the cap of $4,000. You should save at least $4,000 before taking each promotion. Imperial favor is some useless metric. It probably can't ever reach 100%. Click your current salary to change it. Always drop it down to 0 when starting a new province. Increase it when your city starts raking dollars. Click donate money to transfer your own savings into city funds after a 10% tax. The warrior dude is the army manager. The arrow cycle the forts. The button demobilizes them. Which does something, allegedly? Regulars are good soldiers. Irregulars are not as good soldiers. Auxiliaries are weak soldiers. Wages convert your money into regulars at the exchange rate. Conscription converts your unemployment into irregulars. Can lower unemployment, but can increase riots. The alcoholic dude is useless, he shows useless graphs. The orange dude is the Buchhalter. He shows you everything about your finances, population, and can change taxes. Increase taxes to get more funds and more riots. Decrease taxes to sacrifice income and increase happiness. It's better not to touch them, which is the staple of the series. High unemployment hurts metrics and can lead to riots. Even 10% will erase low-grade housing from your city, which is especially bad when you start a new map. Income is income. Outcome and helpfully counts the building spendings. Operating costs include plebs, payments, military payment, your salary, etc. The tribute to Rome starts low but increases the longer you play. Overall balance is not useful because it counts the one-time construction work. The lipstick dude shows you the goals for the current province and gives tips on how to improve. Hotkey R. Peace grows as long as there are no riots or barbarians destroying your town. For culture, improve housing, increase school and doctor coverage, build more entertainment buildings, build more religious buildings. It's capped by the population size. For prosperity, improve housing. It's capped by the population size. Empire grows when your city is connected to all 4 villages and to the imperial highway in the province. The scroll candle green dude is the new industry advisor. It shows the number of built factories which are limited to 30 total. And the resources your province can produce. If you have excellent resources, that's good. With just good resources, the province is much harder. I have no idea how and what is calculated because there's no tutorial, no help, no feedback. I usually build 16 factories split between excellent resources, 8 factories split between good resources, and give 1 factory each to the rest, just in case. The industrial income improves when you connect to the villages, when you connect to the imperial highway, and when your population gets bigger. The servant dude is the plebs manager just like in Caesar 2. Hotkey S. Salary increases the available number of workers. Construction work is a constant reserve. Fire prevention prevents fire. Keep the number of assigned workers higher than the number of needed workers. No one will tell you that
plebs are needed.
When that message pops up, it's already too late. To stop fire from spreading, open the main panel and use the shovel button to delete all the fires. Upkeep prevents buildings from collapsing. Road maintenance prevents roads and plaza from disappearing. Province maintains your provincial walls and roads. Army converts plebs into auxiliaries in your army. Tab 16:1. Click RMB until you exit your forum to the city screen. The option screen opened with the floppy button has options. Resume game to go back. Game speed changes game speed. 0 is not a pause. It can be helpful to start a new city at low speed to pay fewer monthly salaries while you are still building the first city block. Load a game and save a game. Loads or saves game. If you have more than 18 save files, you have to write down or memorize the file names and then input them with the keyboard. Display options offer you to disable minimap, tooltips, and pop-up messages with population, maintenance failure, invasions, and city invasions warnings. Pause the game pauses the game. Hotkey, T. Restart the game restarts the whole campaign, not just this province. Exit to DOS exits. The Look at this graph button opens the very important overlay view, but its GUI is arse. No, it doesn't overlay the layers on your city. It opens a separate map, smaller than it could be, and shows the overlays only on it. You can click the map to see the coverage in 1:1 scale, then click again to disable the overlay, and see the city underneath. No, it's not the main city window, it's still the overlay menu. Press RMB to return to the main overlay menu. No, you will not be seeing the part of your city that you were just looking at. It returns you to the place where you opened the screen. Hotkey, G. Urbanization toggles the buildings. Just turn it on. Water distribution shows the coverage of your wells, reservoirs, and fountains. Administration shows you the range in which buildings with a direct road access to a forum or a prefecture are paying you taxes. It is also necessary for some functions to function. Road layout shows roads, it should have been present on all other overlays. Land value shows the land value. It doesn't show the individual building's contribution unless you clear out some land and put a lonely building there. Just as always, it gets saturated off the scale, while still being below the value that is needed for the best housing. Trouble areas shows you brewing unrest if you play extremely poorly. The hut button creates houses, and housing is the biggest problem with this game. You spend your money to put tents, and they just disappear. You have to fire up the land value to very big values for housing to stop disappearing. Even providing many rich people amenities is not a guaranteed success. And then the houses influence each other, with worse ones dragging down the neighbors. Because of that, you can see shimmering waves of housing upgrading and degrading. The whole thing is nonsense and a nightmare. The same land with the same values can lead to entirely different combinations of houses. Tent and double tent will usually disappear. Water can turn them into wooden shacks and stone houses. To evolve further, they need a road connection to a forum. Just being inside the administration area will not work, they need to be visited by a forum walker randomly wandering the streets. Even being next to a forum won't help if there's no road for the walkers to walk on. Providing a road access to forum walkers and increasing land values will upgrade stone houses to 2x1 or high 1x1 or high 2x1 Soviet apartment blocks. Being inside a market's area and more value leads to high 1x1 turning into roofed high 1x1. Other houses go 2x1 high half roof. Baths are necessary for 2x1 high half roof to go 2x1 low half roof, then 2x1 L roof. School coverage and more value turns them into 2x1 O roof and 2x1 McMansions. Adding entertainment unlocks 2x2 houses, 2x2 Versailles, and the final 3x3 housing. Baths have 3 square radius, and must be built on watered land. They can be fed with just one well. If the land value is high, they can upgrade to 2x2 improved baths. When those degrade, they leave 2 baths which can upgrade and degrade again. Instead of wasting space and hoping for this crap to work, it's better to restrict them and always rely on unupgraded baths. Also, they are good for the metrics and offer some value. The I hammer button opens a panel that offers additional buildings. Less than equal opens the main toolbar. Road places roads. Unlike all the later games, crossroads slightly increase land value. Roads can go over piping and under the walls. Plaza goes over the roads and can go over piping. It increases the land value, so it is almost mandatory. The 3 bars of the radio signal strength button is a combined reservoir and piping button. Clicking on a shore builds a reservoir, clicking on land builds a pipe. Pipes can't be near each other. Pipes can't cross. A reservoir can't be built near a pipe, so do the reservoirs first. One reservoir outputs 1.5 water. If you connect fountains in a chain, the additional ones will start blinking. You can feed 3 fountains from 2 reservoirs with a monstrous piping, connecting 2 full fountains to 1 empty. 1 sinusoid 1 square button is a round well. It offers 1 square radius of water delivery. So, with 2 wells 2 tiles apart they can support 2x2 housing. 2 sinusoids 1 square button is a fountain. It offers a 6 square radius of water delivery, when connected with a pipe to a reservoir. With 1 tile in the center, it basically makes it a 7x7 square radius, excluding piping and itself. Wall can redirect the enemies when they enter the city. It's useful when you are panicking, after it is already too late. The tower button reinforces the wall. Sword is barracks. Barracks generate a patrolman walker when connected to a road. They are probably involved with riots, but if you have riots it means you did something catastrophically wrong, just restart. Barracks are useful during the early game against invaders in the city. If a patrolman spots an invading barbarian, they mutually annihilate. It's not a good idea to permanently integrate them into the city to fight barbarians. It's better to build 1 to 2 barracks with a small road crossing the path of the current invaders. The whistle is not a small dick. It's a prefecture building. It's pretty useless. It projects a square radius of 4+1 of administration to connected roads. Increases the low land value but limits the maximum land value, preventing the housing from evolving. F-hammer is a list of forums. All forums have very good desirability in a medium non-square radius. All forums project administration in a square radius to all roads connected to them. That works just fine for taxation, probably. But as a requirement for housing, the walkers have trouble traveling the complex road network. A straight line touching one side of a forum spreads the walkers almost to its full administration extent. Any detours and turns start to feel wonky. If you make for full-length roads touching all 4 sides, the walkers won't be able to saturate all the sides before their cooldown starts the degradation process. One forum can almost fully saturate 2 full-length parallel roads touching its sides. But with increased complexity the edges start to frail. Most of them are named after the hills of Roma or nearby administrative locations. The forums have these administration square radiuses plus footprint. The C-hammer button opens another panel with more buildings. Less than equal opens the main toolbar. Grave is the opium for the people. The opium supposedly lowers riots, but again, if you have riots. Most importantly, the culture advisor demands more temples. And it's the only 1x1 building with a good land value boost. If the land value around it is good, it evolves. First into a better 1x1, then into the only 1x2 value boosting building with 3 stages. Then 2 stages of 2x2. And finally, a big 3x2 temple. Black Cross is hospitals. They increase metrics and value. Math is schools. They have a square radius of 4. They are necessary for housing evolution and are good for metrics. Oracle is a strong 2x1 value booster. It seems that overlapping oracles do not stack. As a type of a temple, they're good for metrics. Heavy industry. A very undesirable 4x4 building that boosts not heavy industry in some radius. Since you can build 8 industries touching it, do it like that. Market has a square radius of 6 and small negative land value nearby. It's necessary for housing evolution. You can build them 3 tiles away from the housing and still cover the final mansions. Or you can build them near the road and compensate for their negative effect, since they are not limiting the growth. Mug represents industries. There are 8 types of wares. The industry advisor tells which types of wares are more profitable. An industry building can be effective up to 7 jars. It is boosted by the heavy industry nearby, by a road connection to a market, by coverage of administration and a road connection to forums, by some housing nearby, by connecting the villages on the provincial level to your city and by building the imperial highway. When they smell housing, but it is too far away, they generate recruiter walkers. They are indicating a lack of workers housing nearby and they survived in the series until Zeus killed them. Industry significantly boosts the lower limit of value but limits the housing to single stone shacks. Industry is the best way to create employment early. Mask is theaters. A 2x1 building increasing land value, metrics, and generating something like 4 to 5 radius of entertainment, which is necessary for the 2x2 housing and above. Clock is a coliseum. A 3x2 entertainment building, generating land value and improving metrics. Horse is a hippodrome. A 4x2 entertainment building, generating land value and improving metrics. The buildings are placed in the painting mode, and the mouse is considered to be in the scrolling mode, so you can paint an entire strip of things you didn't mean to. At least it actually displays the costs of the buildings, unlike Caesar 2. Also, it crushes all the shrubbery and rocks, so you rarely need to clean them out manually. There's no building during a pause. The speed controls are buried deep. When you see a message, if you didn't disable it, you have only a second to click RMB on it to be taken to the location of the event. If you missed it, you can't see the message history. If it was fire or collapse, you can check the desirability overlay to see the black hole. If it was road maintenance, you can try to read the roads overlay. No such backup option for invading barbarians. And speaking of barbarians, now we are going to the provincial level. Barbarians are generated at the edges of the map, and they are beelining towards your city. Then they enter your city and try to reach your forums. Barbarians can't pass through rocks or trees, so they will play breakout, bouncing off them and slowly clearing a path. The game was designed for you to intercept them with your legions, but there is a better way. So, first we start with the provincial panel. It has no button for the main menu, so if you need it you have to go back to the city screen. Greater returns you to the city screen. Greater F opens your forum with advisors. The shovel button is used to clear out the land, remove roads, and destroy buildings. It's much cheaper to clear the land first before building the structures. The road button is used to connect your city to the 4 villages in the current province. Manual says that the road should be as straight as possible. Once you connect the villages to your city you have to maintain the roads and protect them from barbarians. Highway is an expensive road used to connect your city to the rest of the empire, the grey circle touching one side of the province. Sword creates a new fort. The design was to build forts near the spawn points of the barbarians and hire a lot of soldiers to intercept them. Your military advisor spreads all your available forces evenly between the cohorts. Wall is the bane of all barbarians. Instead of doing repetitive interceptions with bad combat, you can actually wall off the spawn points of barbarians. If you are not petty, just build the wall on the edges of your province. Fortifying the shores will not stop the barbarians from sailing, but the walls will throw the barbarians into the sea. And island maps are so small it's basically free real estate. When going over a road it turns into a gate. Tower. Basically, it's a reinforced version of the wall to be built on top of the walls. Double-headed arrow orders the cohort you will click next to patrol between the point that you click first and the point you click second. Unlike Caesar 2, the cohort will not defend your honor by itself. It will stand in one place and let barbarians enter your town. If you make the cohort patrol, they will actually try to intercept the enemies. But after a victory they will stop patrolling. You have to manually resume the patrol every single time. Two swords force the cohort you click next to try and attack the barbarians you click after. The barbarians run around like Sonic, so you don't have a lot of time, and you need to be relatively precise and fast with your aim. The pathfinding is terrible, so your cohort will also start running around but without the breakout ability. The arrow returns the cohort you click next to its fort. The combat sucks ass. If you manage to catch a barbarian using this dated in 1992 and crappy GUI, and this terrible pathfinding, while the enemies are zooming around, the game will open the battle screen. There are 5 buttons. The last one is to run away, the rest represent different tactics, which do not work. If your cohort has more regulars than the size of the enemy's force you win, if it has less regulars than the size of the barbarian army you lose. It doesn't matter which buttons you press. So, let's start the campaign. Set the funding to maximum, pick the easy skill level, press OK. The game randomly assigns you a random province out of the remaining available, 19 times in a row. In each next province you have to meet higher minimal and average metrics. Each next province you starting funds get smaller, you cap for transferred personal savings bigger, the maintenance cost in plebs higher. You start as a citizen and your goal is to become a Caesar. Here's the list of titles with minimal and average metrics required for promotion. Failing miserably will lead to you being arrested. After entering the playing area, open your forum and set your salary to 0. In the first provinces you still have plenty of cash with low upkeep, so open the military advisor and set the salary to 100. When you see a message that the barbarians are sighted, set your cohort to patrol near your city. If you lose the battle, the barbarians will enter the city map. The city map is split in 2 by the randomly generated river. If the barbarians are on the wrong side of the river, you can ignore them if you didn't build bridges. If the barbarian is on your side of the river, approximate its path and build barracks with a small road in their way, hoping that the patrolman will intercept them. Your third task is to increase your pleb salary to about 100, because they take time to report to work. Check that tab regularly to increase the pleb salary and distribute idle plebs between the tasks. The army plebs are virtually useless. The province ones are not important until you start developing the province. You can lower the game speed if you can't keep up with the game's pacing. The early provinces are pretty easy, you can win with many poorly done configurations of housing. But the further you are into the campaign, the harder it gets. The tents just disappear with no feedback. And even stone housing can disappear if you have high unemployment or high taxes. So I'll begin with what won me the campaign, instead of my old designs. The first worry is to make cash. My industry block is ugly and probably inefficient. But if it's ugly and it wins, it's not ugly. You can try to create your own industrial block using the information I already provided, and test it against the last maps. The design is created to be put into the dry corner to leave more space near the river for housing districts. That's why it uses wells, but if there will be an opportunistic lake nearby, you can use that for fountains. Since you are limited to 30 industry buildings, one side can be shorter to squeeze the block between the ponds. Also, as it is an industry block, it will solve the unemployment problem for a long time. Pick an empty corner, count the tiles, and place the Romanian Forum there. Make a crossroad and put the first blocks of housing. Next, put the corner market. Check your industry advisor and remember the excellent resources. If you have only good resources, remember them. Put 4 best workshops near the housing blocks. The Romanian Forum can't cover an entire industrial loop, so pick one side to move forward. Constantly check the plebs tab S and increase the maintenance crews as needed. Proceed by placing the heavy industry on the chosen side and finish the workshop loop. Start adding the worker housing around it. Put the second Romanian Forum. Now the first workshop loop is entirely covered by administration. So, finish it up with markets and worker housing. Continue with the next side, until you start running out of money. Having less funds than the plebs' upkeep is pretty dangerous, so try not to go there. You should start making some profits now. If you have only good resources, or if you are far into the campaign, the first profits will be very small. Press Alt plus F12 to speed the game along. Use the profits to finish up the industrial block. Now you should gain some kind of real money. The next stop is to deal with the barbarians. Each time you see a pop-up about barbarians being sighted, click it with RMB to see them. Try to wall off their spawn points. If barbarians come by the sea, you can wall off several tiles around their landing spot. All the natural sticks and stones near the borders act like walls too, so don't destroy them. Don't forget to increase the maintenance plebs for the province. When the barbarians can't reach you anymore, reduce the army salary to 0. Also, it's time to build the roads. Try to plan straight roads to the 4 villages and to the Imperial Highway. Building over the trees and rocks multiplies the cost, so it's better to clear the way first. Usually, it's better to start with the expensive Imperial Highway, but if the province is small and there are villages nearby and the way is already clear, you can build a road to them for cheap. The village roads can intersect into the Imperial Highway, but they can't join into the corner. Don't forget to increase the maintenance plebs for the province. With all roads created and the industrial district complete, you should now get some decent income. So, it's the time to create housing streets. When you put down tents, they disappear because the land value is too low, because the taxes are too high, and because there's high unemployment. We didn't touch the taxes and solved unemployment, so it's time to deal with the land value. Romans hate nature. Buildings can crush rocks and trees and trees and rocks and rocks and trees and trees and rocks and rocks and trees for free, but if in your design there's space not occupied by buildings, it's better to clear out the land first with the shovel. To evolve beyond tents, your housing needs water. Since the piping can't be really chained and can't go next to each other, the best design is to have a street parallel to the river, which is usually vertical. The housing evolves to the right, so it has to be unobstructed on that side. It's easier to start on the right side of the river if there's plenty of space. Increase the number of plebs on road maintenance since we are starting with roads. The river is uneven, so to get the big street going from the top to the bottom, find the most prominent section and count 2 to 4 squares from it, depending on the river's shape, and mark it for the road. If the new plebs for the road maintenance have already arrived, make a road from top to bottom. You should probably pretend that the topmost row of the map doesn't exist, because it is buggy. It will generate random roads there. If you put piping there, it will turn into a fake river. One fountain has a square radius of 6 and cannot be really chained. So, it's better to have one reservoir with simplest piping for each fountain. If necessary, or to take advantage of random lakes, you can chain 3 fountains to feed from 2 reservoirs. First, we fill the street with water coverage, putting the fountains 12 squares apart. Don't forget to assign more plebs to fire prevention and building upkeep. To pay taxes and to evolve beyond stone huts, the housing needs to be visited by the forum walkers. The visits have a very long cooldown, so if you didn't create a nightmare road network, one forum can saturate the housing inside its administration square radius while your population is still manageable. For my design, I was using Romanian forums. They are expensive, but they offer 24+4 administration length. And you can have only 30 forums. With their 4x4 size, I was putting them between 2 streets so I could fill the rest of the shorter range amenities. The next necessary amenity is the markets. With a square radius of 6, they can serve the housing even 3 tiles away. Which means one market can serve both streets in my 2 streets design. Next it is baths. Unevolved baths have a square radius of 3, so you need to put them pretty often. Evolved baths are a pain in the arse. The next step is to build schools. With a square radius of 4, you need to put them often. If you can't put one farther, it's better to double cover some spots than miss others. Don't forget to assign more plebs to fire prevention, roads, and building upkeep. For 2x2 and 3x3 housing you need entertainment. Put hippodromes in the empty spaces some length apart. In the tight spaces you can put theatres, but their reach is very short. Now the street is pretty saturated with land value and has all the amenities necessary for 3x3 palaces. We are going to put down tents next, so make sure you have a lot of plebs assigned to fire prevention and building upkeep. Increase the payment again to get more plebs. If you have enough cash left, after placing all those buildings, cover the whole road in plaza. The housing evolves only to the right, then down. And it can't split the other houses, nor take over anything of greater value. Since we don't need sub-palace poor people in the city, and the prosperity targets demand nearly all of the housing in the city to be palaces, my design cuts the street into 3x3 plots for the palaces. The upsides, so many crossroads bump land value a bit. Dedicated plots help to control the housing evolution. Dedicated plots prevent bad housing from degrading the nearby palaces. The forums can support the other side of the street sharing amenities to more housing. It won the game, which demands 79 prosperity. The downsides, since housing evolves to the right, obviously the other part of the street has it harder, and once forums start to behave wonky at high population, that side will start to suffer. Sometimes the evolution gets stuck with a cornered higher value house below a lower value house, that should have been a seed for the palace, but if it all was a 2x2 housing row, none could evolve since they can't cut the neighbor. When housing devolves it doesn't shrink back, but falls apart into individual housing. The new configuration can be such that it can't become a 3x3 palace again. The fountains cut some plots. The chained 3 for 2 fountains cut their plots even more. Piping forces some buildings to be moved around. With all my knowledge you can try to solve the dilemma by yourself. I designed an experimental city that always faces right, but I never tested it. Plus it requires a unicorn river to fit the map. Since the housing doesn't demand high-quality fountain water, you actually can feed the palaces with just wells. My other experimental design is modular well-fed streets that can be placed around complex rivers, almost saturating the whole map, while also providing workers to the industry with palaces. With 7 palaces per forum, it comes together to about 210 palaces. It's also untested and demands to start with the standard industrial loop to get cash before bulldozing it and recreating anew in a much more expensive version. Since only the corner kernels have to have all the amenities, it can be optimized further by making amenities serve 2 streets at the time. Now with an industrial block and a city street filled with palaces finished, you should be raking a lot of cash. It's time to increase your salary to accumulate at least $4,000 of personal savings. Open the Oracle R to check which metrics you should improve to get the promotion. Peace should be reaching 100, since the barbarians are behind the wall. Empire should be reaching 100, since you built 5 straightish roads and protected them from barbarians. To improve culture, start filling the empty spaces on your streets with doctors, then oracles, and churches evolving into 3x2, then other entertainment types. To improve prosperity, start building more streets filled with palaces. Until the very late game you can outweigh your industrial worker shacks, by increasing the population, and building more palaces. Once you reach the goals you will be promoted to the next province. Let's pretend it's already a harder mid-game province with only good resources. Your first action after a promotion is to make a new save for this province. Set your salary to 0. Rise the pleb salary. Set the military salary to 0. Why pay 10 army losers who lose fights to 10 barbarians monthly, when you can pay once for a building generating new patrolmen to catch barbarians? Your starting cash is already limited to $4,000 despite starting with $8,000 on the first map. And now you assign a lot more plebs to maintain just a couple of buildings. You cannot afford to pay the military anymore. You should save often and hope that barbarians will enter on the wrong side of the river, or that your patrols will intercept them in time. With only good resources your industry isn't that profitable. Now you have to inject your own funds into the city. Open your personal advisor, and donate your $4,000 you were allowed to take from the previous province, to the city. And it is taxed again. You have to build up your industrial block pretty fast, but keep an eye on the plebs to not burn the whole thing down. Now let's pretend it's the last maps in the campaign. Before winning a map, make a save. After accepting the promotion, judge your river. If you got a nightmare generation entirely stuck in the corner, you might consider re-rolling the map and loading the last save before the victory. Your goals for the last maps demand very big prosperity ratings. During the endgame you hit the plebs limit of 2,000 every time, so you can't engage in infinite growth to outbalance stupid walkers and the industrial district with more potential palaces. After reaching the cash cap you might consider destroying your industry district, or destroying it and redesigning it to not have low-grade housing. At such high populations, the game starts to fall apart. Besides the constant lag, which started in the 6th province, you can get random fires, collapses, degraded roads, and broken province structures, despite having spare plebs on every task. Your plebs regularly commit ritual suikoden, so you need to check them regularly to see if you have to increase your spending above the plebs limit. If your city funds are at the cap, it can overflow going to 0, and kicking out all your plebs. Always keep an eye on your city funds. If your salary is stopped because your savings have reached the cap, you may consider wasting excessive income on the military just to decrease the frequency of overflows. Since you need high prosperity, but are limited by the plebs cap, you might want to survey your city and destroy the housing that is preventing 3x3 palaces from forming. You might consider clearing out the unpalaceable plots with fountains in them. At high population everything starts to fall apart, and you need around 16,000 for the last mission. Your walkers will run in place or not even spawn. All kinds of random bugs will occur. My industrial block will give you positive income in the last mission. My housing block managed to win the game for me. But you might consider experimenting with something more efficient once you hit $25,000 in savings. Congratulations! This story is happy end. A winner is you. But since you've played the US version, you won't be getting any extravagant orgies. This is an additional section about setting up DOSbox. DOSbox and its GOG configs just work. But they work only as much as they do. GOG uses DOSbox 0.74 to 2. The latest stable dosbox release is dosbox 0.74-3, and it is from 2019. You do not need infinite growth and unending useless updates that move one button around if the program just works. But the thing is, dosbox doesn't work perfectly. Especially the older one. If you install XCOM 3, it will not work until you update to the newest dosbox 0.74-3. Many GOG configs have 3D games running on archaic virtual machines released decades before the games GOG sells you. So, you must increase the cycles and switch the modes to have the game run at a decent frame rate. And then all the mainline DOSBox versions are very blurry when played full screen. That's after you disable the Instagram filters enabled by GOG. So, if you want better graphics quality, the first task is to install dosbox staging. It is a dosbox fork created to increase the number of Instagram filters and use the worst ones you can imagine by default. But if you disable all the filters manually, it will run with crispy graphics in full screen unlike dosbox. After you've installed it, we need to find the conf file. Maybe that is the reason why GOG uses the older version of dosbox. Dosbox staging is built upon the newer version, and it ignores configs inside its folder. It creates a new global config and hides it somewhere no one will look. GOG assumes you will install several games, each of which needs a dedicated conf file, so I'll assume that is the reason. Open a folder, input %appdata% into the address bar and press Enter. Now press the address bar until you can edit the address. Delete roaming and input local /DOSBox, press Enter. You should be inside the folder with the file called dosboxstaging.conf. Open it with a notepad. For some reason DOSBox staging can decide to switch your language from English to whatever it wants. Press Ctrl+F and input language, press Enter 3 times. You should see the language parameter, change it to EN, press Ctrl+S, launch DOSBox staging and check that it's in English. Now find the output parameter. Change the value from Bopengle to texturenb. Find GUL-shader, replace CRT auto or whatever it has with the nearest. Find composite, replace with off. That should be enough to get a proper crispy original image as it was in 1992 with no Instagram filters or AI slop. Increase the cycles to about 10,000. Change the mouse sensitivity to fit the game better. You can create a .bat file to launch the game in staging. Or create a link with launch options. Or just drag and drop csr.exe from /GOG games /Caesar /US onto your DOSBox staging executable.